Imagine a world where the ultimate luxury wasn't just gold or grand estates, but the very essence of philosophical solitude. A time when the super-rich, not content with merely owning vast landscapes, sought to populate them with a living symbol of contemplative wisdom. Welcome to the eccentric, often bewildering 18th century trend where wealthy aristocrats hired professional hermits to live in their elaborate gardens. This wasn't just a peculiar fad. It was a profound, almost theatrical expression of an era grappling with nature, enlightenment, and the very meaning of existence. Prepare to delve into a forgotten chapter of history, where recluses became a peculiar kind of status symbol, living ornaments in gilded cages of solitude. The 18th century, an era often dubbed the Age of Enlightenment, was a period of radical intellectual and cultural shifts. Society was deeply fascinated by philosophy, reason, and humanity's place in the natural world. This was also a time of burgeoning romanticism, where a deep appreciation for wild, untamed nature began to take hold. Wealthy landowners, often patrons of the arts and sciences, sought to embody these grand ideas within the very fabric of their estates. They meticulously crafted landscapes that were not merely decorative, but designed to evoke deep thought, wonder, and a sense of the sublime. The gardens themselves became stages for philosophical reflection, designed to tell stories and provoke emotions. For centuries, the figure of the hermit held a powerful allure. From ancient ascetics seeking spiritual truth in the desert to medieval anchorites walled into solitude, the recluse symbolized wisdom, detachment from worldly concerns, and a direct connection to higher powers or profound understanding. In the Enlightenment, this fascination transmuted. The hermit became less about religious devotion and more about a rustic, contemplative ideal, a living embodiment of philosophical solitude, a sage who had renounced society to find truth in nature. They represented a purity, a simplicity that society's elite, living in opulent excess, often yearned for but rarely achieved. This romanticized vision laid the groundwork for a peculiar demand. As grand formal gardens gave way to more natural designs, the picturesque movement emerged, transforming landscapes into living paintings. Gardens were no longer about rigid symmetry, but carefully composed scenes designed to evoke emotion and narrative. Follies, mock ruins, grottos, temples were built to add character and historical depth. But something was missing, a human element that could truly anchor this philosophical landscape. What better way to bring this vision to life than with a live, breathing representation of contemplative naturalism? The picturesque garden, with its winding paths and hidden vistas, became the perfect stage for the ultimate living prop, a professional hermit. Initially, landowners sought out genuine hermits, men who had chosen a life of seclusion and contemplation. But such individuals were rare and unpredictable. They weren't always available to reside conveniently on a nobleman's estate. The solution? To create them. If a true hermit couldn't be found, one could be hired. This marked a profound shift, from appreciating natural solitude to manufacturing it. The authentic recluse, once a spontaneous symbol of spiritual devotion, transformed into a carefully managed spectacle, a living ornament designed to enhance the aesthetic and philosophical appeal of a wealthy patron's garden. It blurred the lines between genuine reclusiveness and a curated performance. Being a professional garden hermit wasn't a casual affair. It came with a distinct set of contractual obligations. The most famous example is perhaps that offered by Charles Hamilton for his garden at Paynes Hill Park. The successful applicant was to live in the hermitage for 7 years, never cutting his hair, beard, or nails, and never leaving the grounds. He was to wear a coarse cloak and subsist on a simple diet. In return, he would receive food, water, a small salary, and perhaps even a copy of the Bible, optical glass, and a mat for sleeping. The primary duty? To exist, to be visible yet aloof. A living, breathing tableau of contemplative solitude for the amusement and philosophical edification of the estate's owner and his guests. These hired hermits weren't just tossed into a cave. Their dwellings, or hermitages, were often carefully constructed. They ranged from rustic, deliberately humble cottages built of rough stone and timber to more elaborate grottos, sometimes even incorporating mock ruins. These structures were designed to look ancient, secluded, and perfectly integrated into the garden's natural aesthetic. Inside, they were sparsely furnished, emphasizing austerity, but they were not entirely devoid of comfort by 18th century standards. The hermitage was a stage set, designed to convey a specific image of humble retreat, even if the resident had a contract ensuring his basic needs were met by the estate staff. A key part of the hermit's role was his appearance. He was expected to cultivate a specific look: long, unkempt hair and beard, often dressed in simple, coarse robes, sometimes even adopting the patched and worn look of a true mendicant. This visual renunciation of vanity and worldly concerns was crucial to the illusion. Guests touring the estate would encounter this figure, seemingly lost in thought, a living testament to a life dedicated to higher ideals. The carefully curated dishevelment served as a stark contrast to the powdered wigs and silks of the gentry, offering a romanticized ideal of natural man, undisturbed by the dictates of fashion and society. Why would anyone want a hermit in their garden? For the wealthy patrons, it was a multi-layered desire. Firstly, it was a display of immense wealth and eccentricity. To afford a living ornament was the ultimate status symbol, proof that one had transcended mere material possessions to curate philosophical experiences. Secondly, it was about sophistication. A hermit elevated the garden from a mere pleasure ground to a deeply intellectual space, reflecting the owner's refined taste and philosophical inclinations. Finally, it offered a romantic, even spiritual, escape, a constant, tangible reminder of simplicity and contemplation in an increasingly complex world, a picturesque focal point to inspire awe and conversation among esteemed guests. While the conditions varied, the daily life of a garden hermit was often one of genuine solitude, albeit within specific parameters. Their days would be spent in contemplation, perhaps reading the provided Bible or ancient texts, gardening a small patch, or simply observing nature. They were expected to be visible, to complete the garden's narrative, but not necessarily interactive. Encounters with guests would be fleeting, perhaps a solemn nod, a deep gaze, or a silent gesture. This delicate balance of presence and detachment was crucial. The hermit had to appear truly self-sufficient and immersed in his thoughts, fulfilling the patron's romanticized ideal without breaking character or demanding too much attention. The entire phenomenon of the professional garden hermit is a profound paradox. How can solitude be genuine when it's paid for? How can detachment from society be authentic when it's an intentional performance for society's elite? This inherent contradiction is what makes the story so compelling. The patrons desired authenticity, but their methods produced an artificiality. The hermit was both a symbol of freedom from convention and a prisoner to it, bound by a contract to embody an ideal that was inherently antithetical to his employment. It forces us to question the nature of authenticity itself, and how easily it could be commodified or theatricalized to serve the desires of the powerful. Like many peculiar trends, the era of the professional garden hermit eventually faded. The initial novelty wore off, and the inherent absurdity of hiring someone to pretend to be solitary became increasingly apparent. Tastes shifted, philosophies evolved, and the romantic ideal of the hermit lost its sharp edge. Perhaps the sheer difficulty of finding reliable, long-term hermits contributed to its demise. Managing human ornaments proved more complex than commissioning stone statues. By the early 19th century, the demand had largely evaporated, leaving behind only the intriguing follies and the curious anecdotes of this bizarre historical episode. While the age of the professional garden hermit is long past, its echoes reverberate in our own time. Consider our modern obsession with curated authenticity. The influencer crafting a spontaneous lifestyle, the wellness guru selling natural tranquility. We too seek to project ideals, to perform versions of ourselves or our environments for an audience. The garden hermit, a living symbol of a manufactured ideal, serves as a fascinating historical mirror, prompting us to reflect on how we consume and display concepts like solitude, authenticity, and connection to nature. Are we, in our own ways, all seeking to be, or to possess, our own modern living ornaments? The story of the garden hermit is more than just a quirky historical footnote. It's a window into the complex human desire for meaning, beauty, and status. It reveals how even profound concepts like solitude and wisdom can be commodified, transformed into a spectacle to satisfy the whims of the powerful. These living ornaments challenge us to look beyond the surface of what is presented as natural or authentic, reminding us that even in the most serene settings, there often lies a meticulously designed performance, a testament to an age of profound thought and peculiar eccentricity. The garden hermit remains a fascinating, slightly unsettling enigma, forever contemplating from the fringes of history's grandest stages.